Hey folks, my name is Jessica MASHKEVICH and this is One Take with Jess. I am here. My guest today is Connie Embley. She is the principal of Allentown High School in Allentown, New Jersey. Connie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, I'm very happy to be here.
Yeah, so all these schools are reopening, colleges are reopening. The word reopening is just a scary word in itself. But you guys, back when the pandemic hit, Allentown High School was very prepared to go remote. Students had their own laptops. You had the infrastructure in place. And now it's time to bring students back into school. This has been the longest spring break ever.
Yeah. I never thought we would be out this long ever. I
Yes.
couldn't even imagine it.
Yes, and it's a very strange time because, as you know, the schools have been left on their own to decide, well, mainly on their own, to decide, what practices to put in place and how they want to do their reopening. There's certain guidelines and standards that I'm sure you follow.
The Department of Education, the governor put out the road back, it was called, and it was filled with lots of, there were some mandates, of course, of how things had to be done. But a lot of it was suggestions, and it really did put the onus on the districts to make the decisions about the best way to reopen your schools.
Yes, because all school districts are different. Some of them are suburban, some of them are urban, some of them are private, some of them are public. And
so one model would not be right for everyone.
Yes, true. So you guys have definitely taken steps towards reopening. There's a hybrid version and a remote version being offered. And I'd love it if we could just go through a Q&A type format here, because I have so many things that I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
I wrote things down in my phone when I was in the shower just before. I'm like, oh, I got to ask her this. I got to ask her that.
Happy to answer all of them.
Yeah. So I guess the first question is, and I'm going to keep looking at my phone since I spent so much time writing the notes in the shower.
That's fine, of course.
What percentage of students have chosen hybrid versus remote?
So about 24% of our students have chosen to go virtual only.
Okay.
From the high school, we are at about a population of about 1,172 students in the high school, and we have just under 300 students going remote.
Okay, and so the rest of them have chosen hybrid.
Yes.
What is hybrid? Explain.
So hybrid means that by an alphabetical breakdown, the students with the last names of A through L, and then we broke down the other half from M through Z, they'll be attending school on certain days. So A through L will be here on Mondays and Tuesdays and every other Wednesday. And M through Z will be here on Thursdays and Fridays and every other Wednesdays. We did work with the entire district and Millstone to make sure that we kept the families together, so that the kids were home on the same days for families. So that way the older students can certainly help with the young ones. With so many parents also working from home, they needed some additional support at home. So we felt that was the best model to work that through.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense for sure. Now, on those days, is the school day the same hours? Is it going to be starting at 7? What time did it start last time? 7:15?
7:20. So so our school day is going to run for the first 3 weeks of school through September 28th. We're going to run on a half-day schedule. And the second and third Wednesdays of September will be all virtual. Everyone will be home and have virtual.
Okay.
I know it's a little tough.
Everyone's going to have a giant whiteboard stuck to their refrigerator.
Well, I did send the calendar home as an attachment in my reopening plan, and it is posted on the website for anybody that needs it. That will explain what every day is. Okay. So they will be coming for half days for the first 3 weeks. It gives us an opportunity to really just get everyone in, get this settled, get, see if we have any chinks in the system, and work those things through before we go full day. So we do feel confident in that model.
Okay. Now, some of the people watching this podcast may be from different school districts. Is this something that you're seeing the hybrid model looks like across different districts? Do you have a group that comes together from different schools and in New Jersey or throughout the nation that kind of put together best practices as to
we
what a
get,
hybrid is?
we certainly get a lot of support from our colleagues and in our surrounding, districts. I meet regularly with all of the principals for the CVC schools. That is the group that we are in, the league we're in for all sports and all kind of extracurricular activities.
Mm-hmm.
So the principals all meet regularly. Mr. Gutierrez, our superintendent, also has a weekly meeting, superintendent's roundtable with all the superintendents. So we are in constant touch with everyone and to see what they're doing, share ideas. The majority of the districts, were using some similar hybrid model or now have decided to open virtually only and then go open up in October with the hybrid model.
Okay. And what was that decision based on, to start out remotely? And
the governor at first, his order was that all schools had to open, and that you could offer virtual, but you also had to open and offer in person. I believe some schools were having difficulty with staffing and with getting the supplies and things that they needed to meet all of the new requirements and to assure the safety. So you then had the option, the governor 2 weeks ago said you had the option to apply to go virtually and be remediated in that plan. So it meant your plan didn't work and you need help with it. And then you can get the state will help, and then you will have to give a date that you're opening. And most of them are opening in early October. We did not feel that we needed to do that. We feel our plan is strong. We've had a lot of medical advice on our plan. We have doctors on our reopening committee, and they have been a huge resource to us. Mm-hmm. And they have also said that they believe, our plan is as good as it can be under these circumstances, and that we should, we're ready to open.
Okay. I mean, that's definitely reassuring.
Yes.
And I hope we stay open for all of the planning and the money that's been invested. By the way, money being invested, is that something that are in order to be compliant for reopening, have the expenditures been so exorbitant? And
well, I mean, we did have some unexpected expenditures, of course, because the things that we wouldn't have normally had to buy, like all of these disinfectant solutions and wipes for every classroom, hand sanitizer stations for every single classroom, signage, our hallways now, we'll be going one way, or hallways that are two ways. We had to have dividers down the middle of the hallway. Yeah. So, we have to have the PPE for certainly the nurse's office and for staff. So those were unexpected expenses that you could, as a district, put through COVID expenses and hope to get some of that money back.
Money coming back through taxpayer dollars or through state or federal grants?
Yes, through both the state and federal. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So as far as taxpayers go, everyone's property taxes and school taxes and everything else related, are we expecting them to just go sky high next year?
Well, I have no idea about the budget next year, so I don't know. I don't want to say that because I'm not sure. We haven't, we're barely getting going here, so we haven't discussed next year's budget. So I can't promise that it's not going to, but it won't go up because it's related to COVID. Right. Okay. I can't promise it's not going up though.
No, that's fine. I'm not asking you for any commitment. Yeah. Okay, so day one hybrid. The kid gets on the bus. What happens? I guess my first question is, does the bus driver take the kid's temperature?
So no, the bus drivers are not taking the temperatures. The bus companies did not. We had made that request. We felt that was the best thing to do, but they have refused to do that. Students will be required to wear masks and to socially distance on the bus. Once the bus or a parent drops a student off here, of course, they must exit that vehicle with a mask. They will go to whichever door they're at. They're not assigned doors, and we will have staff at every door, and their temperature will be taken before they enter the building.
Okay. Socially distance on the bus means what? Every other seat? alternating staggered seats?
So we are meeting with the bus drivers actually on Tuesday.
Okay.
To go over that. And so I can't answer for sure. You know, we're dealing with a lot of different bus companies, but we do have a meeting mandated with all drivers so we can address those concerns and make sure that they are socially distancing the students.
Okay. Now, the bus driver, I'm sure, is wearing a mask, having
Yes.
proper PPE. Yes, PPE.
Right.
And the students are supposed to be wearing a mask. You know, the question comes up with who enforces the mask wearing, or kids decide to sit in the same seat, or, you know, like all of a sudden there's frolicking and activity on the bus when buses have always been known for, you know,
Yes.
the meet and greet socialization. Who enforces that?
So we would at the high school level, we will enforce the conduct on the bus. You know, if the bus driver will report to us any problems whatsoever. And, you know, there will be serious consequences if students are not cooperating, because this now crosses the line from just fooling around to endangering others. So, you know, we are going to make sure that we stress this right away the first week of school, what our expectations are. Students that, you know, are uncooperative with mask wearing will be suspended from school.
Suspended. Okay. Because the colleges have started already, and there have been parties and even off-campus parties. Certain students that have been caught, you know, that didn't run away fast enough, have been expelled from the university. So, and, you know, certain people are in uproar because, you know, this wasn't spelled out. And, you know, when we signed a parent document, nobody actually declared the, you know, what is a party and how many people inside, outside, mask wearing, not mask wearing. So I'm only asking these specific questions just to bring clarity to, you know, to some things that might be a little bit ambiguous.
Certainly.
You know, at this time.
So a college, of course, is very different, you know, than a public high school. But we, you know, expelling students is not something that we certainly are, you know, looking to do at all. But, you know, we will remind our students that every college application in the country asks if you've ever been suspended from school. If they, you know, want to risk having that on their record because they wouldn't cooperate with a mask or wouldn't cooperate with their social distancing, I mean, we will make sure that we reinforce what a big risk they're taking.
Yeah, yeah. COVID-19.
Not only with each other's health and respect for our staff and for their, you know, their peers, but also for their futures. They're taking a risk.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm totally not getting into politics at all, because I try and stay away from that with a 10-foot pole. But families being the ones to really enforce it, you know, when their kids leave the door, is some families are pro-mask, some are not pro-mask. You know,
right.
It's
there's not going to be any option at the high school.
No options
at all. No options whatsoever. Students must have a mask on every minute that they're in this building.
Right.
You know, when they're on property, walking to cars or walking to buses, and while on the bus. It is very important that we have cooperation, and we do need the support of our parents and them to help us. We're partners in this. We have to assure their safety. I have no concerns about assuring their education. You know, we have proven that even under the most difficult circumstances in the start of a pandemic, we left here on Friday, March 13th, and on Monday, March 16th, every student was being educated. And we just found out this week, actually, that, you know, they rated all of the schools in the state of New Jersey, and the high school is in the top 13% of schools in the state. So we have proven, yeah, thank you. We have proven that academically, you know, we've got this. Now I really need everyone to understand that our focus is going to be on their safety, their security, while at the same time, we want the kids to feel comfortable and safe and have a good time. Right. And, you know, so it's a huge balance, but we really need help from home. Parents are our greatest, you know, asset here and are always a great resource to us. So I know they will, you know, help us with this in assuring that, you know, students are behaving in a very safe manner.
Yeah, you know what, and having a good time at school and being, you know, calm and not anxious. Is this something that you're also teaching your teachers and your staff? Like, you know, please, if you all stay calm and, you know, have a very even demeanor. That's going to translate onto the kids. And it's hard to smile, you know, where you say to your staff, always be smiling, because
I know when you're
everyone's going to be all masked up. But
we told the freshmen we did mini freshman orientations, and we told them, we're really smiling behind this mask because we're so excited to see you. So I do, the staff, you know, I think they also feel anxious, you know, and nervous about the return. But, you know, this staff here is so great. They will make sure that it works. And I think once everyone's here, I think the anticipation is the coming back, you know, but once they're here, and they've all been here setting up their classrooms, but once they're here and everybody's in and they see that, you know, okay, this is working. I think everyone will relax a little bit and, you know, begin to feel more comfortable. And that's my goal, certainly, is to assure that for everyone and the students also. And we are, you know, concerned for students' mental health, because, you know, this is not normal for any of us, much less teenagers of all times, to be isolated away from their friends, at home all the time, you know, not in school, not in getting their activities, you know, all of their sports, their musical programs, all the clubs. So this is a tough time for them. And they need to understand that now we're at the chance of gaining some of this back, so we can't risk losing it.
That's true. And how are you tackling that in school? Do you have extra counselors on hand for anyone that is feeling anxious, or the fact that, you know, sports aren't going to be happening the way that they were last year? There's a lot of pent up energy that also needs to get released in a productive way. So I have a couple of layers of questions, but I'll let you answer the first one. Like, as far as emotional support and anxiety, do you have additional counselors on staff?
I mean, we don't have additional staff than what our normal staff is, but we have a full guidance department. You know, we have, so we have 5 counselors. We have a student assistance counselor. We have a school psychologist, a school social worker. You know, we actually have 2 school psychologists. So we have the staff already here. Okay. And with only about half of the students in each day, they're going to be able to make those contacts with the students and still absolutely make contact with the students at home. They did a great job last spring of making sure that, you know, any of our students that were vulnerable in any way, or we would put out messages for students to reach out to the counselor if you needed to, send an email if you want to talk about anything, and the counselors would then call them. And we had a lot of kids doing that. So, you know, we'll continue with that. We'll also continue with now seeing them in person, and, you know, making sure that we are supporting that emotional need, and helping them to know that we are doing everything we can to keep them safe, and that, you know, they're going to be okay here. I mean, that's important to understand.
I'm sorry. Are you equipping the counselors as well as the emotional support people, I'll call it, with certain things in their toolbox that they can pass on to kids that may be suffering from anxiety? And I mean the ones that are in school, kids that are in school, as well as the ones that are home. Like, here's the top 10 things that you can do to relax and enjoy your school year, or, you know, get down.
We absolutely are doing that. I mean, we
just
have
to make sure that it's a uniform communication, because the guidance counselor who's there to help you pick your classes, who is also like the person maybe that person is expressing, the student is expressing anxiety, you know, in front of, they can provide that student with, like,
absolutely.
Here's the,
and they will be prepared to do so.
Okay, that's great. That's great, because there are a lot of anxious kids out there.
A lot, yeah.
Yes, a new sort of emotion that has crept up.
Right, exactly.
Speaking of sports and gym, I'm going to touch on gym first.
Okay.
Gym classes are very important for health and fitness. Not every kid is in an active sport. And gym classes in the remote world were sometimes, you know, hey, snap a picture of yourself on a walk so that I'll know that you got outside and that you did something. I've seen other types of creative gym classes where it's more of like an in-person, concurrent, online, and hybrid, if you're going to do the hybrid gym class, where it's a little bit of a workout. You know, you get your heart rate up, maybe everyone's doing 20 jumping jacks at the same time, and then you do 10 push-ups, or maybe another gym class is a yoga session where it's stretching, and kids can still participate remotely at home, and they can still participate in a safe environment, hopefully at the hybrid. But we know that, your immune system is very important for fighting disease itself, for viruses. And I wanted to know if you guys are doing anything to maintain at least a higher exercise level in the hybrid environment with hybrid and remote.
So unfortunately, students will not be able to be changed for phys ed because the locker rooms will be off limits. We don't have a cross ventilation in locker rooms, so it's not really a place that we want to put students in. They would, the lockers are all close together, so they'd be gathering in there. So there will be no changing for gym. So that does limit, of course, some of the activities they could do if the kids were changed with, normally with their sneakers and everything. So the teachers, the phys ed teachers, are going to go outside. We want them outside every day that is absolutely possible.
Yes.
Because that is the safest place for them to be. And they'll be doing activities that are more like lifelong fitness type activities that the students can do instead of the real more sports related type activities. As far as the students at home.
What's a lifelong fitness activity? I'm sorry, just a quick, what's a lifelong fitness activity mean?
Well, something they can do like tennis, walking, walking the track, tennis activities, exercising, things like that.
Okay.
So we are not able though to live stream the class when the phys ed teacher's outside.
Okay. Is that because of connectivity, or can
yeah, we don't have, right, we don't have, they're not connected when they're outside of the building.
What about their phone? Can they prop it up and live stream that way?
It's very difficult if you're outside with, even half their classes, which could be, 16 students or something outside.
Okay.
And, where I don't know where they'd prop up the phone. The kids at home would probably only see feet. They're coming up with an exercise program that the students at home will have to follow. They will log on for each period.
Okay.
They will be part of some of the warm up and the, lesson. And then when they do go out, move to outside, then the students at home will be instructed to do their activities and document that.
Okay. And will the student also be given at least a daily regimen that they'll have to submit to, to the gym teacher, just that I did my sit-ups, I did my push-ups, whatever the activities that the phys ed teachers are going to require them to do, they will be required to do that on a daily basis and to submit that. Okay,
yes.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I would like someone to ask me to submit my daily activity. I could use that little, hey.
You're right. I have to turn this in. I better do it.
Exactly. So tell me about sports. What is going on with our sports? And
NJSIA has done a whole return to play protocol. NJSIA is the governing body for all sports in the state of New Jersey. And we actually started in July with our fall sports teams. They could come in up to 3 times a week. Very strict protocol for phase 1. They were only allowed to be in groups of 10 students. They had to stay in that group of those 10 students for the entire time that they were in phase 1. They could have no equipment. They could have, just do drill. They could just do drills.
Is this which sports are these?
So, well, it's all of our fall sports. So, but the only teams that actually came in were football came in at first, and then field hockey and girls soccer have all been in with these, with working through the phases. Phase 2 was where they were allowed to now, use, like, they could hold the field hockey stick and they could hold the football and, different, but there's protocol for cleaning all of that. Every student's temperature was taken. They had to wear a mask up until the time that they were actually doing a physical activity on the field. And then as long as they were spaced apart, they could take their mask off. So we've done that since all of July and up till this week. We are now going into, there's a blackout period that NJSIAA has imposed, and which will last from now until September 14th. So no sports, no contact with coaches or anything.
Okay.
And then on September 14th.
Why? What is that?
Well, I think they wanted to make sure that the preseason, we're having like 2 preseasons. So the first preseason that there's this break to make sure that there's no one sick, and to give the students a chance to reacclimate to the school, and without sports, because this is right now, coming back, they're going to get used to a whole new procedures. On September 14th, we'll start the fall preseason, and that will go until October, beginning of October, which we will then go into our games.
Okay.
As of right now, we are planning to continue with that and play our games. The seasons are much shorter. Of course, at any time that can change. NJSIA can pull it, or we can decide to pull it if we feel that, it's not safe. So we're hoping, though, very much so that along with, clubs and, our musical activities will start sometime mid-September.
Okay. And what are the thresholds that have been established for you guys putting the kibosh on sports, as well as, and what are the thresholds for school to decide, you know what, guys, we got to shut this off and go completely remote? What are those thresholds?
At this time, and of course, this is also subject to change. So,
Big
daily
disclosure across the bottom of this entire podcast.
I feel like saying, like having it running across.
Yes, I'll do that, actually. All information is subject to change.
Right. What I'm telling you today could be different tomorrow. But as of right now, through the guidelines of the CDC and the health department, we have been instructed that if there are 2 independent exposures with positive cases, we would then consider either closing down the activity for 14 days, possibly closing school for 14 days, depending. So
just two?
It doesn't mean just 2 students. It's a little bit misconceiving. Like, if you have you could have one case. One case could involve 5 people, but it's considered one case because it was one exposure. All 5 of those got sick from one exposure.
Okay.
And if we get a second one of those, we have to look at, was there any connection whatsoever amongst the students? Were they on the same team? Were they in the same class? Did they eat at the same lunch table? Did they live next door to each other? Did they drive on the same bus? All those things.
Yeah. If
we can say yes, they did, then it's still considered one exposure, one case.
Oh, okay.
Right. If there's 2 students that have, student A has it and student B, student A and student B have no contact whatsoever. Yeah. Not on any teams, not in any activities, not in any of the same classes, not in the same lunch. That's considered 2 separate exposures. And at that time, the health department would advise us if we should shut down for 14 days or not. We don't believe we'll ever be in the position to shut down again for a long period of time. Again, that the governor could change that if the numbers in New Jersey start to rise again. They're very good right now. But that can change also. So we will take our directives from the health department. They will instruct us. They'll do all the contact tracing, and they'll instruct us if we do have to close or not.
Okay, so the health department comes in and they're the ones that do the contact tracing, not someone on staff at the school?
Well, we're going to have like a double layer of that, honestly, because with the delay in the tests coming back.
How long does it take?
Well, it can take anywhere from, 2 days to 2 weeks. So that's our concern, right? So we're going to do some contact tracing here. If we find out a student had symptoms and was sent home by the school nurse who assessed that those symptoms weren't caused by anything else, that it could possibly be COVID, and is going to send the student for a test with the parent, well, we're going to start the contact tracing form. We're going to find out, every class they were in, who they sat next to, what lunch table they ate at, what bus they were on, drive, activities. And we'll just hold that. If the test is negative, we'll just throw that piece of paper away. But if the test is positive, we then have that for the health department. It'd be very difficult for us to go back 2 weeks later and say, what lunch table were they at?
Yeah. But don't you have to do that daily for them every single day while the test is away? They're going to have different.
No. Once they're out for testing, the student is out of the building.
Oh, they're out. Okay. Got it. Now, what if a teacher comes
So it would be the same thing. We would do contact tracing for the teacher. We'd make sure everybody that the teacher was in contact with. If the teacher tests positive, of course, everyone in the class would be notified that they were in contact with.
Okay.
All of the medical experts tell us, though, a direct exposure is not necessarily because you were in the same room with someone or you passed someone in the hall. They say it's actually in an enclosed space for more than 10 minutes without masks on is considered a direct exposure.
Yes, yes. And as far as exposures go, you have the contact, the surface exposures, and then you have droplets, and then you have the aerosol, which if someone sneezes and it's kind of like a little spray, it can linger for up to 6 to 8 hours. That's what they say, whoever they are. This is certainly concerning as far as ventilation goes. In certain areas that are well ventilated, it might not be that much of an issue, for example, outdoors, but in areas like bathrooms or other closed-in spaces, how are you guys dealing with the air quality and ventilation?
So we've had a company, a professional company come. They're actually here this week going over all of the air ventilation systems, making sure that the filters are the appropriate, filters, sized filters, and the appropriate, level of, I'm not sure.
Filtration.
For the virus, so all of that is being done. Every teacher will be required to leave their windows open, their classroom door open. The air conditioner can be on, and we have said that they can use fans that are faced towards the windows, pull the air outside. The fans can never be facing the students or facing the teacher. So they can only be facing the window or the door.
Okay.
To keep the cross ventilation going. So those are the things we're doing to keep, everyone will have their doors and windows open all the time.
Okay.
We will get everybody outside as much as possible.
Did you set up wedding tents or something in order to host classes as much and as often outside? And as far as connectivity goes, once again, like we talked about with gym class, are teachers going to be able to still teach remote students
So
while they're outside?
Teachers that are right outside the building would have better connectivity.
Okay.
But if you're all the way out on those fields, that's when you're going to lose it. So our teachers would not be going out to the sports fields to teach their classes. They're going to be going to, the spaces right around the building.
Right.
So we feel that they'll be able to. No, we did actually look into the tents, but the liability of setting up tents if there's a too big of a windstorm comes through, and we're not here if they're out at night and things like that.
Really? Oh gosh.
So yeah, so we're not actually setting up the tents.
So how often, is it just based on the teacher's discretion, how often they take the class outside? And should everyone bring a blanket or throwy to sit on?
The teachers will tell the students that if they want them to.
I mean, fresh air is the best, the best solution. So as far as planning goes, our teachers take kids outside on a regular basis way before, this virus. Like you'll see the math teachers or the physics teachers are outside having the kids design all over the sidewalks, math problems and, drawing different, figures and things. So that was a really common event that happened all the time. English teachers in the gazebo, kids were rereading. Yeah. So, I think they'll still just be doing the same types of things that they did. That's great. That is good. I'm just concerned for the remote kids though, that, if they do go to the gazebo, there's no Wi-Fi at the gazebo or LTE or. Well,
we believe is that close to the building, we'll be able to maintain that.
Okay. And are you encouraging the teachers to take the class out and just teach them, if it's not science or math, drawing on the sidewalk, any other teacher that hasn't done it in the past, are you encouraging them to do it like twice a week at least?
We didn't put a time frame on it, but we are encouraging everyone to do it.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
So as far as the teachers go, what percentage of teachers have decided to take a leave of absence and say, you know what, whether for health concerns or for family circumstances or childcare, I'm going to just take a leave of absence for now? What percentage are you dealing with?
At the high school, no one.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. I wish all the teachers and students, you know, amazing health. And we're not leaving this conversation, by the way, but I just wanted to say that because a lot of school districts are, of course, dealing with
Yes, they are.
concerns
Yes.
from teachers and concerns.
Yes. No, the high school staff will be returning.
That's excellent. Wonderful.
Yeah.
And oh gosh, what was the other question? Emotional center for school supplies. Oh, school supplies.
Yeah.
Sharing of calculators, or I mean, that used to go on.
So for the first time in all my 21 years here, I've sent home a supply list for high school students. I've never done that before, but the supply list was on the reopening plan because students cannot share items. So we can't have them sharing markers and pens and pencils. And, you know, high school kids are very similar to the little ones. Like, they don't have a pencil, they don't have the pens, they don't have, so the high school teachers, you know, really go through a lot of supplies, and you know, they can't share them. So we are asking that every student be prepared with the list of supplies that we had, including a calculator, and you know, all of the just basic things, and they have a set at home and a set here that in their backpacks that they can use.
Okay.
But they should definitely have these things, you know, highlighters, markers, pens, pencils, things like that. It wasn't a very extensive list, but it was things that they really need. And that was, like I said, the first time ever we've needed to do that, because we can't have them sharing. If we give them a pencil, they have to keep the pencil. So now you can imagine we'll run out of pencils fast if we keep doing that.
Yes, that is true. That's what I do at the bank. I just take the pen. And that's why they have to keep it.
I know, right?
Because of me.
Yeah.
So what sort of technology or anything that have you had to provide to the teachers in order to have them be effective at teaching remote? And I'm going to keep, you know, harping on the remote just in case school does switch over to remote. You know, I'm sure there's lessons that you learned from the springtime, and teachers that taught wonderfully when you switched to remote, and then teachers that didn't do that so much. It was a new, you know, it's a new process for teachers. Some of them are just better in person than they are online. So there's definitely best practices for how to teach and how to engage kids in a remote environment that teachers will have to be kind of really brushing up on just in case they flip the switch again, as well as for the percentage that have opted to stay home.
Right. So actually our teachers, you know, the majority of them did an excellent job at teaching remotely from home. This is another new way of teaching because they're going to have students in front of them in the classroom. They're going to have students at home that are home for 2 days. They're going to have students that are home permanently for the marking period. So, and they're going to be live streaming their classes, unlike like we are doing here, where they're sitting in front of you and everyone's at home and they're sitting in front of the computer. They're going to be teaching. So they'll be in front of the room, writing on the board. So we're using cameras in the classroom. Everybody will have every teacher will have an extra computer. They'll have Bluetooth so the students can hear them with the headphones. So all of those things we have been getting for them. They've been set up in their classrooms. We have training starting next week for the teachers on all of these different, you know, techniques and things like that. I'm sorry. There'll be, you know, we're expecting there's going to be some bumps in the road in the beginning because this is all brand new.
Yeah.
But I know this staff, and you know, we'll work them out as quickly as we can. So, you know, as far as actually techniques for teaching, we have been supplying them with information and sending them to webinars all summer long.
That's great.
Yeah, so, you know, we will continue to provide that professional development for them. They will also let us know what they need. You know, they need to try this and then say, I am not sure how to do this, or this, I could use help with this. So we have told them that, like, I need to know so I can set up the professional development that they need.
Yep.
Once they know what that is.
Now, if you guys go completely remote and someone flips the switch and says, okay, everyone stay home, are the teachers still going to be teaching from their own classroom? So you'll only end up having teachers in school, or are they able to switch over to a home environment where at home they'll also have a whiteboard and they'll also have the tech support and tech structure, you know, with the headsets and whatever.
So that is a decision. We believe that if the governor shuts it down, we will send everyone home, including our teachers, to teach from home.
Including the teachers.
Because we believe that that's the only way, that's the only reason we will completely shut down is, you know, if again, the numbers are high in the state and the governor shuts us down. We would go back to the same system we were using, you know, in the spring. Of course, I think everyone will even be better at it than they were then. And we have some more technology and more programming for them, for the students and for the staff. I don't believe that we will if we send the students home, even if it's for a 2-week period for quarantine, we would also send the teachers home to keep them safe also. Okay. So, you know, they will have to adjust. And that's what I mean, like, this is a work in progress. They're going to have to adjust from teaching in the classroom, teaching with being live streamed, teaching to sit in front of the computer, you know, with like how they did in the spring. So there's a lot of different methods here.
Right.
I have every faith in them, but, you know, I know it's a challenge.
Okay. 3 questions popped into my head. Number 1, do you have anyone on staff that is the resident remote teaching expert in order to be pulling together best practices and making sure the remote infrastructure is in place? That's one question. And the other one is, does that person also, or is there another person that can do pop-ins on certain classes randomly, just to see, you know, if the level of education is being communicated how it should, or, you know, observing that, look, it looks like the teacher is struggling a little bit. Maybe, you know, he or she needs an extra whiteboard, or, you know, the tech team or someone can provide the access on how to put up slides, you know, just to help while the teacher is teaching, to have someone go in and just monitor for improvements that can be made on the teaching side of things to engage the students.
So we have a full tech department that are really excellent in, you know, providing the support. So they would be able to do that. We always have the ability, in which we did some last year, is go in and observe our teachers remotely.
Okay. Is there a plan in place to be doing that?
I mean, there's a requirement of observations through the year for our staff, and so we would just be following that.
Okay. Do you think that might be more prioritized, just given the environment and the level of?
It is the same priority every year. We have a legal responsibility to observe our teachers, so we have a schedule, and that schedule stays the same. You know, that will stay the same. I mean, we still have to meet that that mandate.
Okay. Is there a hotline or a tip line that students or parents can call in and say, hey, I really think that my kid would benefit in a remote environment with, you know, if this, that, and the other thing happened?
Well, parents can always email me if they have suggestions, and I'm always happy to, you know, we don't have like a tip line just for that, but, you know, parents are always, you know, welcome to email me with suggestions or questions or, you know, concerns that they have, so that we can address them. I mean, I do want to hear if they're, and they did this in the spring, you know, if their child is having some issues with either the, you know, it's not, I'm not saying an issue with the teacher, but, you know, the way the teacher's delivering the material, the student's having some difficulty with that, or the parent feels that the student needs some more support. I want to hear that so I can make those adjustments. I don't want to hear after it's all over with and say, well, if you had done this, I need to know so we can do it. We also will be offering our students, as we did in the spring and as we do all the time, a lot of support. So we have, last year, even remotely, we're running math lab, the writing clinic, science lab, world language lab. We have the librarian available after school 2 days a week to help any kids with research remotely. Okay. We have tutors. So all of that will be available remotely and in person. Okay. Or if we go all remote, then it would be available all remotely.
That's great. And I assume if a student needs to reach out to the teacher directly, they have access to reach out to the teacher directly. And I'm sure that the teacher is, you know, kind of should be responding within a couple of hours or an hour or so to an inquiry that the student may have.
Well, I mean, it depends on the time of day that the student emails the teacher. You know, of course, if it's during the school day, that they'll get back to them. If it's later in the evening or something, they may not get back to them until the next day, but they will absolutely answer them. They can email their teachers anytime. They can email their counselor, or they can email certainly me, and, I'll get them the help they need.
Definitely. And will any lectures, any school day lectures, I'm going to call it lectures, are they going to be recorded in case a student needs to review it again, or?
Yeah, so we are making that recommendation to our teaching staff that we do feel it would be a good idea to record the lesson, so that, students that want to go back and review it and things like that, or someone was absent, they were sick. So, we have made that suggestion to every teacher, and we're going to remember the staff has not even been back to work yet. So they'll be back next week. So we have an opportunity to, go over all these things in great more detail.
Okay. And do you have to pull the school lawyer in on that one, just for intellectual property rights? This is the information that the teacher is putting out there. So is it owned by the teacher, or any students that may end up, whether their voice or their face being on that recorded? Do you need?
Remember, it's a closed system. It's through Google Meet, through our Google Classroom. So it's a closed. No one else would have access to that except for the students and the teachers and staff here. So we know that I'm sure it's been vetted, that this is, an appropriate method for us to use.
Okay, cool. Content and ownership rights, intellectual property, all that fun stuff. Okay, what else was on my list? Hang for 1 second. Tech team, percentage of teachers. Any liability that the school is liable for anything related to a student's health or a teacher's health, or the downfall of a student's health or the downfall of a teacher's health. Are there things that the parents and families have to sign before allowing their student into the hybrid environment that holds you guys not responsible for, the ultimate if the kid gets sick?
I mean, honestly, nothing that I've heard of. I mean, we certainly it would be very difficult to prove that a student if they got sick, that they necessarily got it from here. Who knows? Anybody could get it from anywhere. I do not believe that the schools would be held liable if a student became or a staff member became sick with the virus, unless we were in some way being irresponsible. Mm-hmm. And, if we knew that there were a lot of people sick and we didn't do something about it in that way, but because anyone gets sick, I mean, people get the flu all the time. No one comes after us, you know what I mean? Or, yes. We've had outbreaks of things, over the years that I've been here. There have been outbreaks of different diseases, not, of course, to this level of COVID, but, there have been. And, no one says that's the school's fault. The only time I could see that would be is, like I said, if we were aware that students were ill or staff were ill and we did not do our contact tracing, we did not report it to the health department, and didn't follow the protocol, then of course, but we would never do that. So
yeah, no, understandable. Right. I just had to ask the question though anyway.
Yeah.
Are you going to be sending out testing kits to those that are returning back to school, whether it's a random sample, especially for the teachers as well as the students that are coming into the building? I know they did that for colleges. They definitely did that.
I'm sorry, I missed you. You cut out actually. We cut out for a minute, so I didn't hear what were we sending to teachers.
Will you be sending test kits to
a
random sample? No. They did that for colleges, for freshmen coming back onto campus, and it was very telling because a lot of kids were asymptomatic, yet tested positive, and they didn't know it until they had the random sampling. It is.
We did seek the advice of our medical professionals on a reopening committee about that, and they have advised against it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, because if you test someone, say we sent those, we'd have to give it at least 2 weeks to get everything back. And if we tested the teachers 2 weeks before school started, does not mean by the time school started that they didn't get in contact with someone. So it's not really that reliable.
Okay.
Because of if the tests were something we could give the day before and we got the results back that day, it would be reliable. But because it's taking so long, that the medical professionals have said it's not necessarily valid once 2 weeks have passed,
Sure.
that person with a negative test isn't still negative.
Sure, absolutely. And
Yeah.
is there something that they're doing, especially for schools, to bring that 2 weeks down to like 24 hours? I mean, the sports
the testing centers are completely overwhelmed. Completely, you know. Frustrating. I know that. It's very frustrating, but
yeah.
You know, I mean, even yesterday, the CDC came out against testing, you know, if you were asymptomatic. So even if you were in contact with someone. So that was strange. Doesn't mean we're following that, but they came out yesterday saying that. I mean, in New Jersey, the governor has said we're not going to follow that procedure, but that's what I mean. Like, the information comes at us so fast and then changes so fast. Right. So it's, you know, we're just absolutely making sure that we follow all the procedures, though, that, you know, are required by the state of New Jersey, and are everything that we do, every decision we've made has been cleared with medical professionals.
Okay. Now, how do you feel about masks versus face shields or masks that have like the opening so you can see a smile? Are these things that you guys are investing in, and can you opt for wearing a face shield instead of a mask?
No, medically, the face shields will not really help you if you don't have a mask on, because it's not, you know, enclosing your mouth and your nose, and the mask protects you, but it also protects everyone else. Without a mask, the shields would not be useful. We do have shields available if anyone wants to use them. Okay. We do have some masks that have a clear, and I actually have one on my desk here. I have a couple that are samples.
Oh my God, please put it on. I have to see it.
No, that's...
I've been wanting to see it. Please, please, please put it on, please.
Okay. So, you know, works like this, and...
how do you see over the windshield? It looks like a big windshield wiper. How do you see over it?
I can't. But, you know, for our teachers that work with some students that may have special needs, may have hearing loss, teachers that are teachers that teach American Sign Language. So we do have those for those teachers.
Yeah, I think they're wonderful. I actually, any sort of clear panel that can happen in masks, because I can't hear people very well when they're wearing a mask. I know it's difficult. How much I relied on, you know, reading lips.
I know.
Fully in person.
It's very important, though, that the masks we've sent out to our students and to our parents, and I will continue to do so before school starts, some very strict guidelines on these masks. They have to be double ply. The masks, we will not allow those gator masks. We will not allow bandanas, and we will not allow any mask that has the valve in the front. Those have been medically proven to be unsafe. Duke University did a huge study on the wearing of masks, and said the candle test, you should not be able to blow out a candle with your mask on. If you can, it's not a safe mask.
Okay, that's a great tip.
I know, and I've tried it with my masks at home. I cannot blow out the candle, so I feel okay. I'm good. But those masks, I think, are really crucial to the safety, and we are going to, you know, insist that everyone wears the right mask and that it remains on.
Okay, great. And how are you guys handling special education when it comes to students that may have even had a one-on-one person that was with them in the classroom? How are you handling that, especially with the kids that are doing it remotely? Do you have any special education kids that are doing it remotely, and what other services?
Yes, we do, and we're providing all services to them, and if they had a one-on-one, the person will be signing in with them, you know, signing on with them, and being able to help them. So we're going to continue all the services that they have.
Okay, that's great. And I lied that was my last question, because this is my last question. Okay. Lunch. How are you doing lunch? And is there a different sort of nutritional, diet that you're upping? Because everyone needs more vitamin C and D and zinc. Is that going to be served at lunch?
Oh, I'm not sure that school lunches will be taking that much into consideration of the vitamins that they need, but
build the immune system.
Yeah, for the first 3 weeks of school, we are not serving any food whatsoever. So that gives us time to get in and get adjusted. At that point,
because it's a half day, right?
Yes, they're half days.
Okay.
And so I have not spent a considerable amount of time working on lunches yet, because I have to get school opened. But we do know that we will be using multiple spaces for students to eat. We have 2 cafeterias. We also are going to be selling food from different areas, like the concession stand that's near the new gym. And we're going to be setting up some tables, more tables outside. We already have an outside eating area. More tables outside and some more tables inside different areas of the building. So everything that we can to, there's some sign across, everything that we can to make sure, you know, students are socially distanced. We do have plexiglass set up in the cafeterias. So, you know, we're going to continue to work on that plan. It is not completely finalized yet because we do have until, you know, September 28th until we start to serve lunch. So I will have more details once we get closer.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. We had a little bit of tech disruption. I don't know if it's from the texts or messages that are coming in on your end, but you got a little wonky and fuzzy, which is fine. No, that's totally fine. This is exactly the environment that people who are working remotely may have to deal with. You know, there's disruption.
I saw there was some, all of a sudden, letters coming across the screen. I got distracted by what it was saying.
It's okay. Is there going to be any sort of a way that a student can communicate with the teacher right on the spot that says, hey, you know, like some kind of disruption just happened. I can't see what you're saying, you know,
so
your mic went off. Is there something like an immediate
as part of Google Meet, though, you know, there is the chat, so students can always type to their teachers too.
Okay.
Those questions go, you know, you can go along the side so you'll be able to read the questions if anyone has them. We have told students, and we will continue to tell them when they return to school, if they're having any tech problems, they do need to notify their teacher right away that it's a tech problem, and then notify someone in the main office or someone in the tech office so that we can often correct that problem from here. You know, these are school devices. The tech department has the ability to sign on to their Chromebooks from school and can often fix the problems for them.
Okay, that's great. And the tech department is ready, like hands on, boots on the ground, ready to fight all the fires.
They are.
Okay, great. Connie, thank you so very much for hopping on. I'm going to put this podcast out there because it's not even related to our school district. It's related to all school districts, and you guys are definitely setting a great example for, you know, how to run things. I had questions that you answered the majority of, but there's still some open answers. I mean, open questions out there to be answered, and you know, you'll play it by ear. It is a live,
exactly,
ever-changing environment.
Right, absolutely, and that's why I've said, you know, we're going to open school. We have our plan, and you know, if we see something's not working, we're going to make that change immediately.
Yeah.
So it's going to, you know, we're going to be adjusting as we go and making sure that, you know, the most important thing is the safety of everyone. And I think we're ready to do that. I'm confident and I'm excited. I can't wait to have the kids back in school.
Yeah. And these kids are resilient. They're a lot more, you know, able to change.
They are.
I applaud, honestly, all of the things that I've seen from all these creative graduations that happened. And, you know, the end of year disappointment with, you know, we weren't able to go on our trip, or I wasn't able to have there was so many wonderful things that came out of it, the creativity that was spawned, you know, by the kids themselves. So I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with the way that the kids are handling it. And as always, I'm impressed with what you guys have done. And I definitely look forward. And if I can do anything to support your efforts.
I know that. I know. Thank you.
Always, please let me know.
I will. Thank you so much. And, you know, anytime, I'm always happy to join you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, let's check back in, like once things get in full swing, if you have time.
All right. Anytime.
Yeah. All right, Connie.
All right. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.